Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 100-Year Real Estate Investor. We're your hosts, Jake and Gino, and this is the show dedicated to long-term personal financial engineering. Gino, how's it going?
Doing great, Jake. How you doing, bro?
Doing really good. And the reason for that is our guest today is a responsibility junkie. He started purchasing whole life prior to getting his driver's license. Now, I don't know if that's true, but we're about to find out. So without further ado, Dylan Stewart, welcome to the
show. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no doubt. So, okay, the driver's license might have been a stretch, but you purchased a policy at a very young age. What age were you exactly, and why? Why whole life at that point in your life? A lot of people want to go out and get a car, or let's go blow some cash, get a flat screen TV. It's too much responsibility
100%.
there, man.
So I was 27 years old, and at that time I was making good six figures, right? And as you're making income, you're starting to look and try to identify like what type of assets do you have the ability of parking some of that cash, of placing it. And you're always looking for the best type of investment. So a lot of people go towards real estate, right? I started out reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm sure you guys have read the book as well. And I read another book from Rich Dad, Poor Dad's advisor, Andy Tanner. And so he wrote 401 Chaos. And essentially what I was doing
like
at the
that.
time,
I haven't read it. That's a great title, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's
401 Chaos? 401 Chaos.
Chaos.
That's great.
Yeah. So a little play on that whole structure. And really what that book does is it dives into what we now in my generation think of as retirement, right? You work a W-2 job, you take some of that income, and then you apply it to a 401k, and then ultimately grow a certain amount of net worth and retire. And so what I realized is we were basically solving a cash flow problem, retirement, because usually what we want to do is when we retire, we want enough cash flow on a monthly basis, right? We don't want a certain amount of money, and then we have to drain that account and then hope that we don't die before we drain that account, which would be a 401k. So I started to look into it. And if you do any type of research, I mean, if you just go on Google right now and type in how the 401k was established, how it was created, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I say that because it wasn't originally meant for how we're all utilizing it to this day and age. And so understanding and deconstructing that essential retirement account then led me into multiple other books to say, okay, how can I start to identify maybe another form of investing? I read the smartest investment book you'll ever read. And then another one was the Perpetual Wealth System. And that's where it dove into these whole life insurance policies. And one of the things that really got me excited about being able to invest in something like this is imagine if you have a 401k account and you're essentially pumping money into that account. And then as opposed to taking a distribution out of that account, now you're going to get taxed on that. You take a loan out of that account and that account continues to grow while you now have a lump sum of cash that you can invest elsewhere, whether that's financing your own car as opposed to paying somebody a certain amount of interest rate, right? And then you're financing it and you're acting as the bank. Or you have the ability of taking that money and going and buying, let's say, an Airbnb, going and putting some capital into a multifamily complex. Like whatever it is, now you're growing two assets at once. And there's no other vehicle that I know of that allows you to do that. So for me, it just made complete sense because I'm a very logical person. And when I understood the fact that, okay, retirement is cash flow, like that's what it is. So it's just a matter of solving that now problem. And the 401k is really just a section of the tax code that allows you to defer taxes and then put in those earnings from your contribution into just this 401k account now. So it wasn't originally meant for that. And that's how I
wasn't it basically like budgetary constraints where these companies could not afford the pensions anymore, so they needed an alternative, and it was basically spawned as an alternative to the pensions because the companies were getting cash strapped and no longer able to afford paying those pensions going forward. So that's where I think it came from. So it put the onus back onto the employee. And then ultimately it's, if you're not 100% responsibility junkie like yourself, you might get yourself in trouble. And then here's the thing, gang, the boomers are getting older. The number one thing that we know is that taxes are going to go up. They have to, because as we were speaking to the demographer the other day, Generation X is not a large enough population to basically carry the tax burden on our backs. So it's either going to come down to folks like Dylan over here, or it's going to have some sort of generational tax on the boomers to make up that pitfall. Meanwhile, people may not have enough 401k in reserves to carry it. So there's a lot of things going on here, but kudos to you for taking action and thinking, you know what? I'm the one that needs to be responsible for my future and my outcomes, and getting, going with it at such an early age. So I just think that's fantastic.
Jake, do you mind if I just add to that before I ask Dylan another question?
Of course.
So what I would say to everybody, follow the money. And what do I mean by that? A 401k plan is designed to prop up Wall Street. You're getting money flowing in there.
Yeah, why don't they want the money out of 401ks right now? Why do they just follow the money?
That's
follow
what I'm saying.
The money.
So follow the money. And you see money going in there, they're propping it up, and that's propping up the stock market, and it's going to continue to prop it up. Now they're raising the age of retirement. So you can't touch your money till you're 59 and a half years old. So Dylan Stewart, who's in his 20s, for the next 30 years, can't touch that money, and it's continuing to go in there. Let's not even talk about the lost opportunity cost. There's such a huge lost opportunity cost. You wouldn't be speaking to Gino right now if it wasn't for whole life, because I would not have gotten into my third deal without whole life. So this conversation would not be happening. So what's the ROI on that? It's that you can't even measure that. I'm going to continue.
And the other thing, Gino, is like you have to actually start taking it out. Like they force you to take it out once you hit, I think, 70.
Exactly. And so let me.
They got to get that money. They got to get that money.
Yes. Let me continue along that vein. You're in a contractual obligation with Uncle Sam. How is that going to work out? Do you think these rules are going to be the same in the next 5-10 years? Probably not. So just be aware of who you partner yourself with. It's values-based decision-making. For Jake and myself, we didn't feel we were in alignment with that kind of plan because we want the money to invest today. We want the opportunity cost. We want leverage. We want liquidity, and we want control. A 401k does none of that. It may give you a little bit of really nothing. Think about it. There's
really,
no
what does it
leverage
give
in
you?
Yeah.
There's no liquidity because
you get all to
whacked.
them.
Yeah,
exactly. And investing in mutual funds, you're investing mutual funds. There's really nothing to do in a mutual. You're pitching some mutual funds, and the costs are exorbitant. So just look at all those options and say to yourself, is that working for me? And what else can I do with my money?
Where's
Dylan,
the monthly cash flow?
There is none. What I want to ask you, Dylan, the objections. What objections did you get from people when you told them, I'm going to pivot and follow this course of action for myself?
Yeah, I think the biggest objection is just what is happening, right? Because we just think if something's happening and everybody else is doing it, it's the right thing to do. So usually those objections, not anything particular or specific as far as like a thought pattern or process, but it's almost like what Jake was saying, like it's just the sheep moving in a specific direction.
It's herd mentality, gang. There's a 1% for a reason. You're not making it in the herd. I'm telling you right now.
100%. And because that herd's moving, even though people don't understand it, they feel a little bit better about it, right? They feel better that they're putting money aside into a 401k because everybody else in that circle of friends is doing the same thing. However, they don't even realize how their 401k is structured to begin with. On top of everything else that you guys have already said, it's like they don't even understand the fees that people are charging that are taking out and fees, just like what you put in and your contributions, there's a compound effect to it. So if you think the compound effect is so powerful, when you're putting money into an account, when you're investing in a certain type of asset, the compound effect with interest that's being taken out or a certain type of fee is incredible. So the first thing is really just understanding it. And I think that.
But ask why. Ask the question why, Dylan. Why don't they understand it?
Yeah, I think it's just the herd mentality, right?
It's a lack of responsibility, though. You took the time to read the book. They say, you know what? This is money. I can't understand it. It's Wall Street. It's beyond me. You need to take the time to educate yourself and understand why you're putting your money in a place. Is it a values-based decision? And does it make sense for my family long-term? Otherwise, you're being irresponsible and lazy. And that's the opposite. And that's why I said you took 100% responsibility. And that's why you made this decision. Gang, you can't discount that. It's too important. Yeah. That's the difference.
So Dylan, anyone who's young, early 30s, we talk about personal financial engineering. Well, what would you say to them? What are the next steps for them to do to take control of that? I mean, you gave us a couple of resources, that 401 chaos. You discussed perpetual wealth system. That's another great book. Where else would you guide them to, to start taking control and start personally financially engineering their lives? Yeah.
So, I mean, and you guys have amazing resources, right? If you just go to the Jake and Gino site. So that's one thing. Those two books, 401 Chaos and then Perpetual Wealth Systems. But the main thing is this, and going back to what Jake said with taking responsibility, it's first educating yourself very quickly, and then second, making a decision and moving forward. Because The one thing that we also fall into the trap of is just consistently educating ourselves and never making a decision to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to also educate yourself with that in mind of what you're going to do by taking the responsibility to go out there and put a plan in place. Because if you are in your early 20s, later 20s, you're 30 something plus, the amazing thing about being able to start this, and I also believe that if you have children, you can start one of these for your kids as well, which is incredible, as opposed to setting up a 529 for college. Now you're taking out a loan and they're leveraging it and have an amazing ability to build wealth over time with the dual asset strategy. But it's educating and then taking action in order to put something in place. Because to me, as a 27-year-old, setting up a whole life insurance policy, as opposed to, let's say, a 40-something-year-old that's still young and has plenty of time to go out there and retire, that actual premium and my ease and ability to get a life insurance policy is going to work so much better at a younger age. So it's one of those things where you can put things off, but then throughout time, you're kind of screwed because you can't really put it off, right? You have the choice and you can take that responsibility, but the longer you wait, no matter what age, it's the harder and harder it is to get something and lock it in place with that solid premium, with that solid death benefit, and with the cash value accumulation. So that's what I would say.
No, it's great. Very well said. I'm just really blown away with how smart and the quality of decisions that you made at such an early age. So, amen to that. Great job there. And gang, if you want to find out more, if you're a real estate investor more specifically, and you want to find out more about the dual asset strategy and exactly what Dylan said about using the policy to then borrow and invest that into an asset, we have people on the team that actually delivered tailored plans for the real estate investor. You can go to 100year, it's 100year.com, schedule a call with the team. And ultimately, I think the most interesting thing that you said was that retirement is a cash flow problem. If we can look at things through that lens and understand that if it don't cash flow, let the grass grow, right? That's what we're all about. You have to be generating cash flow throughout your life, and you have to look 100 years down the road, and you have to say, where am I going to be at this point, and how am I going to get there for myself and my family?
As the great James Clear says, most people wish they started sooner. Almost no one wishes they started later. Mr. Stewart's not wishing, he's doing. Are you the next person to do, or are you going to wish you started sooner? It's all about taking responsibility, Jake, and I agree with you.
Good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for your time today, Dylan, and we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.